Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's session. And this is our last session in our series, From Classroom to Conservation, Navigating the Green Career Path. A special welcome to our three high schools and on our online audiences. Today's talk is titled, What's Next? Finding Your Path After School. To all grade 12 students, I know you are now wondering what is next now that you're finishing your high school. How will life be on your next stage? You don't have to worry. We have a solution to that. We have speakers who will help you get ready for the next step. And today we are very, very lucky. We have two speakers here. We have to my left, Soretu Sitike, and to my right, Brian Mhlanga. I will introduce Soretu, who will be our first speaker now. So Soretu, as you can see, she's a young African lady who just graduated as a lawyer just 2 months ago. And I have known Soretu for 3 years. And I can say she's a true definition of a small girl with big dreams. Soretu is a go-getter. She's someone who gets to be so focused when doing things. She's going to share with us her life experience and where she's coming from and how she got where she is now. Please, let's welcome Soretu Sitiki on the screen. Soretu, you're welcome.
Thank you, Sela, so much. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and a great afternoon to my young high school students from all the parts of the world. So today, as I stand before you, I am reminded of the power of ambition and the incredible journey that lies ahead of you. As Sela has mentioned, my name is Soletu Sitiki. I am an LLB graduate from the University of Free State. And I come from a township where opportunities were limited and resources were scarce. But I refused to let my circumstances define me. Instead, I let my ambition fuel my dreams, and I am proud to say that I have achieved more than I ever thought was possible. So let me tell you a little bit about the journey that I went through and how I got to where I am today. So I was born in a small town, village actually. I was born in a small village called Mnganduli in Gwalini. And I stayed there for the first 11 years of my life. I had kettles and I made friends. So when I was 11, I had to move to another small township in Hermanus in the Western Cape. And it was difficult because now I was moving from being a small rural girl to being another small township girl. It was a difficult transition and I faced a lot of challenges because when I moved from the Eastern Cape in the rural areas, I was taught almost everything in my home language. And I was comfortable with my teachers because they explained everything in my home language and I understood the work and it was easy for me. Then I went to a township school now where there were different students and people that came from different backgrounds. And that made my life slightly difficult because now I had to learn to make new friends and also learn to communicate in English, which was a stumbling block because I was the girl who knew how to say, my name is Soletu, I'm 11 years old and I'm doing grade 5. So now I had to learn to express myself in English and that was difficult. So from the transition from being in the villages to being in the township was difficult. But it was not the most difficult part because then I went to high school and I learned different subjects in English and that was not so difficult. But I was a girl that was misunderstood. because where I grew up, I was often told that wanting a better life was a luxury a few could afford. But I believed that my background didn't dictate my destiny. So I would draw inspiration from people and role models that were in my community that had achieved, that had became things that I had hoped to be when I would grow up. And I also looked up to Justice Zondo. I'm sure most of you know him as the former Chief Justice of South Africa. And I drew inspiration from him because he also grew up from humble beginnings. In order to enroll to university, he had to work for this other Pakistan guy who had a mini shop in his village. And he had to work very hard in order to have himself enrolled at university. So I thought to myself, if there's people who are from the same background as myself, who have fought to be where they are today, why can't I do that? But because now I was a shy, timid girl in a township and with limited resources, I struggled. But then, luckily for me, there was a man who used to come to our high school every Monday, because every Monday we had prayer before we started our classes. His name was Theo Kreiner, and he is the founder of Sparkle Kids. He used to share a story with us every morning. And this one day, I decided I'm going to listen to this man because he spoke about a bird that was in a cage that had been kept there for so long that when the owner decided to open the cage and let the bird free, the bird couldn't go anywhere. Regardless of the door being open, the cage being open, the bird still stayed in the cage because it didn't see, it couldn't imagine a life outside where it was. So I listened and I wondered, what does this mean? And he explained to us, he said, sometimes when you have been in a place for so long, it is difficult to dream beyond it. And I wondered, okay, so what are my dreams? What is it that I want to do? What is it that I want to achieve? And because I came from a background where I saw a lot of injustices, I said to myself, well, I want to be a lawyer. I want to make sure that other people get justice for all the wrongs that are done to them. And I said to myself, okay, so how do I now get myself to a position where I can achieve this goal, which is to stand up for those who can't stand for themselves? I took an opportunity and I spoke to this man and I said, well, listen, I'm a young girl in a big world, but I have big dreams. And I want to see myself in a robe as a lawyer representing people and making sure that justice is achieved. So now how do I get there? Because I come from a family, and at that time my mom made 700 rands every fortnight, which is like after 14 days of work, she would get 700 rands. And I knew there was no way I would get to university with 1.4 a month. That was impossible. And I said to myself, okay, so now I know this is my financial background and it is not allowing for me to enroll into an institution. And during my talk with this man, he spoke to me about an opportunity that was there. There was a bursary that I could apply for. I said, oh, okay, these are the requirements. And at that time, I knew I couldn't meet these requirements because I was a minimum achieving student. But I told myself, I want to go to university. I want to be the first graduate in my family. And most importantly, I want to be a lawyer. I want to represent my people and my community. So I started investing in myself. I started studying very hard. I made sure that I understood everything that was shared to me during class. And I started to improve. I went from 50% to 60% to 70%. And by the end of the year, I had 80%. And now, after having applied for that bursary, they accepted me. So now I knew I have a bursary, and I applied at different institutions. And to be honest, it was difficult to get into an institution because it was a struggle to get Wi-Fi. It was a struggle to get data. You would get your email that you received 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks later, because you didn't have the opportunity to go through your emails and to see. And emails were a new thing to us. We didn't really understand how they operated. We thought, if you send an email, you're gonna get a message later and without data. But I later learned that you actually need to have data to have access to this information. So I bought myself data and I saw that I had been accepted at the University of Free State, but I was not accepted for law. I was accepted for education. And I said, oh my God, but this is not what I want. I don't want to be a teacher. I want to be a lawyer. So upon my consultation with Theo Craner, the founder of Sparkle Kids, he said to me, well, you do know that you can still change when you are inside the institution. Look at this as your chance to get into the institution, then change into the course that you want. I was like, oh, okay. And to me, I thought, going to Bloemfontein is not going to be so difficult. But in my journey to Bloemfontein, first things first, it was my first time in a bus. It was my first time traveling over 1,200 kilometers alone. My mom could not go with me because she could not afford to buy a bus ticket. The bus ticket that I got was from Theo Craner. He paid for my bus ticket and he also paid for my accommodation for the first few months because my bursary was only covering for the food allowance, and it was not paying for my tuition. But luckily, I had NSFAS, and NSFAS was paying for my tuition and accommodation later because with NSFAS things, they take long to release funds. But when they released the funds, I was able to relax. But let me tell you, when I got to the university, I got a shock of my life. Because now, everyone there was not speaking Xhosa. There were people speaking Sotho, there were people speaking Pedi, Tswana, English, Afrikaans. I was like, God, what am I going to do in this world? Because now I have to communicate in English, no matter what. And I was like, okay, that's not a big challenge. I took it on. I enrolled at the university. Then they said, you need to put on your login details. I was like, what are login details? They're like, well, your student number and your password. Then you can go to the Blackboard. I was like, what is Blackboard? They were like, don't worry, we'll take you to orientation. They took me through the orientation. But I also didn't really understand because now I had to operate a computer. And I had never owned a computer. The only laptop I got was from my high school. And I received it because I got a bachelor's pass. But still, I didn't know because I didn't get a computer literacy class when I was still in high school. Now I need to know Microsoft Word. I'm like, what is that? And here they're telling me you need to write an essay that is worth 1,500 words. I'm like, I'm used to 200 words. I'm used to 500 words. But I had to transition. I had to teach myself. I had to make sure that I am going in this head on and I'm making sure that I am achieving, because remember, I was determined. I wanted to be a lawyer, but I was still doing education. And I had to transition. It was difficult. I tell you, it is difficult. It is difficult to be firstly, I was in a different province alone. Secondly, I was in a big institution. We're over 800 in class. I was used to 45 people and now we are 800. And I have to ask a question in front of 799 other students, which was difficult. So enough about myself now. let me talk to you and tell you what you can expect when you go or when you get to university. So it is important that when you get to university, you find yourself a community. Get yourself involved with student association, especially the ones that are in the field of your study, because they can provide you with valuable support, networking opportunities, and you can also get a sense of belonging because you are not the only one. Because when you go into that student association, you will also find other children that are from the same background as you that cannot operate a laptop, and you guys will learn together. So once you have found yourself a student association, get yourself a study group. Join a study group, because a study group with your peers can help you stay motivated. And also it is an opportunity for you to understand complex concepts, and you can also build relationships. So you won't feel so lonely anymore because you're going to have friends from your study group. And if there's something you do not understand, you can ask your peers. And also, you need to participate in campus life, because that is your time to socialize. That is your time to restart, to reboot before you go into the hard concepts of the modules that you have. And this will also help you when you engage in campus life activities. You will also get the help because you will meet people that are like-minded, people that think like you, and you also need to make the most of your university experience, because you make lifelong friendships. You get opportunities, because the reality is this: after university, you have to go to work. So it is your chance to network with the people that are there so that you can possibly get a job. Because with student association and study groups, information is shared. And that information is valuable because they can speak to you about the opportunities that are there. They can speak to you about the companies that are recruiting students, because there's actually companies that recruit students from a student level. And then when you graduate, you can just automatically become one of their employees because you would have gone through internship while you are still at the university. So there's also challenges that you're going to have to overcome. Let me tell you. It is important to ask questions. Don't be shy to ask questions in a class or seek help from lecturers, tutors, or your peers. You need to be proactive. Take initiative to find resources. Take the initiative to find support and the opportunities that are around campus. You also need to persevere, because university can be tough. But with persistence and hard work, you can overcome challenges and you can achieve the goals that you have. So my final motivation for you guys and tips. This is something you need to know. Remember, your background or circumstances do not define your potential. With hard work, resilience, and a willingness to learn, you can achieve great things. Don't be afraid to take risks. Ask the questions that need to be asked and seek help. And most importantly, you need to believe in yourself. First, you need to know you can do it. Know you are able to do it. Know you have the power to do it. Every time when you face a challenge and you feel like I can't do this anymore, remember why you started. Remember why you enrolled for the course that you enrolled for. Because if you remember why you started, then you will be encouraged to persevere, to persist, and to carry on. So the final tips: stay focused. In university, there's a lot of fun. But remember why you are there. Set clear goals and priorities. Stay focused on achieving those goals that you have set for yourself. Don't hesitate to ask for help. And most importantly, enjoy the journey. University is the journey. It is not a destination. So make the most of it and enjoy the experiences and the opportunities that come your way. I hope my story and advice can inspire and motivate you as you transition from high school to university. Good luck, my great olds, and good luck on your June examination. Thank you. Over to you, Sela.
Thank you so much, Soreto. What you have said is really, really important to our students here. And yeah, you're an amazing person, and your experience has really encouraged even me, who's not a grade 12, but I feel so encouraged right now. Yeah, so now to our grade 12 students, please don't be shy. Sorry to say it clear, don't be shy to ask questions. Now is the time for you to ask Soreto questions. Ask the question that you have for her. So I will check with the Mboni. Mboni, from your side, from Zumani, are there any questions?
One question this side, and Daimani.
All right.
Okay, so the gentleman here is asking if should he pass by a diploma, is it possible for one to obtain NSFAS bursary?
Soreto.
Thank you, Bonnie. So, NSFAS covers a lot of degrees, diplomas. NSFAS can start funding someone from college, but it must not be a private college. It must be a public college. So whatever institution you go to, you need to make sure that it is a public institution. So if you want to obtain a diploma, make sure the institution that you enroll at is a public institution. So that was this. Boston colleges are not funded by NSFAS because they are private institutions. So when you're making an application, just make sure that, okay, the place you're applying at is a public institution, because if not, then NSFAS will not fund you.
Bonnie, are they happy from that side?
Yes, they sound happy. Is it clear, guys?
So much. So at the end, you can still ask questions that you have for Soreto. But for now, Soreto, I would like to thank you so much for your talk. You've really encouraged. I know you've touched someone's soul here, and someone is going to work hard because of your speech. Thank you so much. We really appreciate your time. Our second speaker for today is Brian Mhlanga. Brian is a seasoned executive coach, someone who has spent over 15 years helping others prepare for the next steps in their life. We are so lucky today that we're going to learn from someone, we're going to hear from one of the best coaches here in Africa that we have in Africa. And I should mention that Brian is just coming from an airplane now, and he just made time to talk to us, so we should feel really happy to hear from him. So with these few words, I would like to welcome you, Brian, to the...
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Sela, and good afternoon. Sanibonani, Dumelang, Tobela, Moro. How is everybody doing? I really appreciate that you've made time, and I really want to thank you for being with us this afternoon. I was asked just to have a little talk and a little chat with you this afternoon. And as I was preparing, I actually thought to myself, if I was sitting in that matric class of 2025, what would I want to hear? And it took me back to my journals. So I keep a journal, and I went back to my journals, and I realized that at each and every stage in my life, and each and every stage in my development as a person, at 21, at 25, at 30, at 40, there are big milestones. And at all those stages, there are things that I wish somebody had made me know and somebody had told me about, right? And so that's what I would like to share with you today. So I'm really delighted to be with you. I'm really delighted to be in such company. And I want to share three things, just three things. I don't want to go into 10 of those. next time I come, I'll share with you the other stuff, right? I want to share with you 3 things that I wish somebody had told me before I turned 21. Right now, I am 44, and I look back and I wish I knew this better. Okay. So the first thing that I would like to share with you that I wish somebody had told me then before I turned 21 was that there's a difference between getting a qualification and an education. And I want to repeat that again. I wish that somebody told me back then education and getting a qualification. We live in a context and in a world, oh my God, what happened to my screen? We live in a context and in a world where getting an education, getting a certificate has been confused with getting an education. And I would like to really put that categorically this afternoon to say it is different. The two are totally distinct. The two are separate, right? And the reason why I am saying so many people today get certificates, there's so many people out there with certificates, with diplomas and even degrees and master's, right? But you'll be shocked if I was to tell you that a few of them are educated, right? I currently teach in about 4 universities right now in Johannesburg, and it is very interesting to see it from the other side. I teach undergraduates, I also teach postgraduates, and there are 2 types of students that I see that come into the lecture hall or into what I call the classroom. The first one is the dedicated student, the one who is giving himself or herself completely to their work. They go the extra mile. They want to know more about the subject. They want to do more research. They want to discover more. They are very interested and curious about what's happening within the area and within the discipline. And they would even come and ask the lecturers and the professors, how can they improve their grades and how can they take it to the next? So they're very hardworking people. On the other hand, you then have a group of students whose sole interest is to go through university having done the bare minimum, right? And these are the people who say, mina ngifuna i-50% kuphela. Ngizothola i-degree yami, ngigibele istage, sengiyahamba, akunandaba, right? Okusalayo, ama-degree ayafana, kunamuntu une-degree that says 100% cum laude and 49%. Sonke sigraduatile. Emsebenzini, nobody's going to ask about that. Okay. And so what you can tell from the attitudes of these 2 types of students that we see in the classroom is that the one is just there for getting the certification. And then they don't care whether it's at 51%, whether it's a 50% on the dot, they're okay, as long as they go through the institution and collect the certificate and go. So you can already see from the examples of these 2 people that I've given you that even when they get into the world of work, or even if they go through the university, even during that time, the attitudes of these 2 types of students are totally different. The other one is doing so much work because they realize that there's so much learning. They realize that they can learn, they can explore. There are people who want more than just the paper, okay? And then the other one just wants the paper. And today, I really want to challenge us as you start thinking of university, to start thinking of university as a place where you are going to get an education and not just a certificate. If you are going to go there for the certificate, and this is why you see there's a lot of people who are sitting out there with degrees, with master's degrees, who are not able to get jobs and placements and who are not even able to give a meaningful contribution to our society. It's because also of their attitude that they had when they were going through their studies. Their attitude is, ngifuna umsebenzi and I'll get it. But when you go through an education, then you start developing other skills that make you realize that you could either go through the world of work, find a job, or create jobs, or contribute in a meaningful way to society. So I just want us to be very much aware. And I would like you now, today, to start choosing consciously for yourself, Uguti, wena when you cross over and you transition into university, what are you going to be doing there? Uyofuna certificate or uyofuna imfundo? It's up to you. And the results are going to be different even after the completion of your time there. So the certificate is something that unfortunately society has also been glorifying. And I'm not saying there is anything wrong with certificates, right? But I think we need to realize that certificates are a means towards an end. So there are people who would like to learn, who've got certificates in swimming, but they don't know how to swim. And you wonder, how did they get those certificates, right? So don't get me wrong. I'm all for further qualifications. I'm all for people furthering their education. But my view is that people should register and study in order to get an education and not just a certificate. And I'll repeat that. People should go to tertiary studies and should register for whatever programs that they're doing, not just for the certificate, but also for the education. Okay. So an education is something that is going to keep you open. An education is going to something that is going to keep you asking questions. An education is going to ask you and is going to challenge you to fix where there are certain things that are broken. And you need to realize education in this context does not only mean those things that take place within the classroom, but education also means the informal interactions that are taking place outside the classroom and outside the lecture hall. So that is where the education takes place. It is in those spaces where you meet different people. It is in those spaces that you get to interact with communities that you've never interacted with. And I'm going to challenge us to start pushing ourselves to be committed to getting an education. Where now I want you to ask yourself, what do you want for yourself namhlanje ngoku or today? Okay. And then the second thing that I wish, by the way, I actually wanted to mention something. What also came into my mind this afternoon was, if you read The Long Road to Freedom, The Long Walk to Freedom by Nelson Mandela, you realize that Tata Mandela spent 6 years at Wits University. And yet he left Wits University without the degree. Having left Wits University, in the eyes of the world, he would have been seen as a failure. He would have been seen as somebody who did not get educated. But the irony of this is, even in his memoirs, and I want to challenge you, all those of you who've not read it or who've read it, to go back and you'll see, he actually says he had degrees from many other institutions. And he doesn't even mention some of those institutions. He goes on to say Wits University was a gift to him. Wits University was that place where he got an education. It opened the world to him. It opened him to political consciousness. It opened him to how the world order was. And he says it provided him with possibilities. Wits University is the only educational institute that he left in his will and gave money even after he died. Because according to him, Wits University is where he got his. I'm talking about that there's a difference that between getting a certificate and being educated. And that is one of those things that I wish I knew when I was 21. And I would like you today to start also being aware of those things. Okay. So in South Africa, we've got so many people with those certificates, but I won't get into that, right? And education is going to get you to interact with good people from different cultures. It would give you an open mind. It will actually ask you, make you ask yourself, how can I be part and parcel of the solution to some of the problems that we are facing even as a country here in South Africa? So that's the first thing I wish I knew, right? And then the second thing I wish somebody had told me before I turned 21 was to stay curious. What do I mean by staying curious? Staying curious is not ukupapa, colleagues. That's not staying curious. That is being nosy. Ukupapa loco. Staying curious means being full of wonder, ukubuza imibuzo, asking, why are things like this? Should they be like this? Do we want them to be like this? So staying curious means asking questions, reflecting, and looking at what impact certain things have not only on ourselves as individuals, but on society, but even in how people interact and have relations amongst themselves. Okay. And so we live in a country, colleagues, where because people are not curious about each other, we operate out of assumptions, right? People have, so the moment I walk into a certain space myself, educated as I am, with the experience that I have, but the mere fact that I'm a Black man, there are already assumptions that are made about me. And there'll be assumptions that are going to be made about you also. Whether you come from Emakaya, whether you come from Elokshi, there'll be assumptions that are going to be made about you. Those assumptions are probably misplaced and some of them are wrong. But what I am going to challenge us is for us not to be living and conforming those assumptions that we have. I would like us to be curious, meaning realizing that we need to start getting to know people, right? Getting to understand people. Look whether it's besides their gender, their race, their ethnicity, their accent. The mere fact that you've got an accent that is different from somebody who was in a different space from you, already some people think because they speak proper English, then it means that they are intelligent. It's not that. And you realize when you get to university, even those who speak English better than us or you are probably even smarter than them. And you probably even, your trajectory will probably even be better and different from them, right? And so all I'm saying is you need to be curious. Be curious, find out what makes them the way they are, the people that they are. And I'm going to also challenge you to not project your assumptions of the people that you meet based on your experience and your histories. Don't project those on others. Rather, what I've learned is that it is by moving out of our comfort zones. Make friends from people who are different from your town. Make friends from people who are different from your religion, from your race, even from your sexual orientation. Get to learn people who are different religious orientations, get to learn what makes them tick, what they believe. It doesn't mean that you believe in them and you buy those things, but it means that you start asking questions and you get to understand and you've got informed positions about certain things. Again, never make assumptions about things, about people, and even about places, because it is going to make you look silly in public. Okay? So just because a girl is blonde does not necessarily mean that she's dumb. Ne? Just because there's a white boy who is speaking Afrikaans and always interacts and communicates in Afrikaans doesn't necessarily make him racist, right? Just because you've seen somebody wearing an EFF shirt does not necessarily mean that that person does not like white people, right? Or is anti-white, right? Ask questions, find out, right? Open up to the world, move beyond those labels, stay teachable, stay humble, and know that there's still a lot that you have to offer and that you have to learn. And so that's the second point. Stay curious. I wish somebody had told me to stay curious, and instead I was a know-it-all during my time when I was a 21-year-old. Okay. The third thing that I would like to share it with you is your actions or your behaviors have consequences. Whether they are good, whether they are bad, whether they are right, whether they are wrong, they have consequences now, in the future, and they'll even have consequences maybe even for the people that are around you and the people that love you. Never forget that. Whatever you are doing today has consequences, okay? All right? So when you choose certain behaviors, colleagues, you also choose certain consequences. This is how life is. And I would like to say to you, that is adulting. In adulting, you take ownership of consequences of the behaviors that, or you choose certain actions, you also choose certain consequences, okay? So your parents, your families, your friends, the government are not responsible for your conduct. You are responsible for your own conduct. When you are responsible for your own conduct, you cannot blame anyone, not even your circumstances. You are responsible. You've got a choice and you can decide. So whatever choices that you are making today, whether you decide uyobhema, whether you're going to decide ukuthi uyowenza umjolo wenzani, those things are going to come back and bite you. And uzoba the person upostayo ukuthi when days are dark, friends are few. And thina sizokuignore ma uposta laphaya ku-status sakho. Ngoba thina we know ukuthi those are the consequences of your actions. Okay. So I would like to challenge you today based on that to know what you will and what you will not do to get ahead, to know who you are and what you stand for and what you are not about. Because if you don't know those things, you're going to find yourself engaging in certain things that you're going to end up regretting. You're going to, all of you be in matric, you're going to be that person people say, Mara wapasa nama distinction. Uta maha uhlele ekhaya manje. Udayisa lapha ethaveni. Hayibo, kodwa wangena university. Njani? Right? Because there were consequences to your actions. Okay. So you need to be able to be very clear of what you can live with and what you cannot live with. No one owes you anything, colleagues. No one, including your parents, they don't owe you anything. West Manje, you are now going to be going above 18. You are your own liberators, and you are going to write the next phase in your histories. So I want to wish you well, and I want you to start dreaming big, dream big, and I would like your dreams to be very big. If they are not big enough, as Maya Angelou says, then realize that if they don't scare you, then realize they're not big enough. So thank you very much, and all the best with what lies ahead. Gabon.
Wow. I found myself writing notes. Wow, Brian. I also wish I knew this when I was 21. Before I got to be 21, yeah. Thank you so much for your talk. We really enjoyed and we have learned a lot from it. And I hope the students have also learned a lot and they really enjoyed it as much as I did, as much as Soreto did. Yeah, so right now we are going to open for questions.
Yes, there's one student who wants to ask a question. Yes, baby girl. She was asking what happens if I do my first year and then I get disturbances, more like health issues and all that. The following year, when I come back to school, what happens then? Do I continue with first year modules or I move on to second year modules?
Thank you so much for that question. Brian, would you like to get it?
Yes. So what happens is you have to go back where you left. So there are no ways, there are no shortcuts, colleagues. Hakuna shortcuts. There are no shortcuts. Unfortunately, you go back.
Yeah. Are we good? Yeah, so there are no shortcuts, Anir. Yes, and it's okay. Anir? Yes, there are no shortcuts. You go back to it. We have another question here. To another. She gave an example of fashion design and changing to nursing. Is it possible?
It is possible. It depends though. You can't move from humanities where ufunda isiZulu and then jiggy, you now want to go into mechanics or into engineering. It is possible, but within certain constraints. So you can, if you are in the same faculty, maybe you can move, you can change disciplines, but you can't change faculties depending on what you're trying to move into. So you can move from sciences to commerce and to business studies, but you can't move from certain modules, from certain disciplines, and yeah. So you just need to be aware of what are you moving from. You can't. It's like mover from you can't move from LO and maths lit and you want to do pure maths. Akusebenzi, right? unless in schools these days. From what I know, in the last 3 years, it was impossible. There's no way ukuthi uhlulekile ne-maths lit now ufuna ukwenza pure maths, core maths. But you can move from core maths to maths lit. Kuyazwakala?
Thank you so much, Brian. And yeah, it's true. If the programs are somehow related, you can move from one to another. But if they're not related in different faculties, it gets to be hard. Yeah, a good example is Soreto moved because she was doing education and she moved to law. Is that true to Soreto? Soreto?
Yes, Arcela, it is possible. But you have to meet the minimum requirements of that certain faculty you're trying to move to. For an example, when I was doing education, there were 4 modules that were similar to the law faculty. So when I moved to the law faculty, they first checked if I met the requirements. And they saw that I could meet the minimum requirements, and then they therefore accredited me for the modules that I had done in the different faculty when I was moving to the law faculty. So it is possible, but also you have to meet the requirements. They will check, there's like a standard that they go through. So they will say, okay, for example, if you're doing humanities, I have a friend who was doing humanities and wanted to change to nursing, but she was doing, psychology and something. So for her, it was easy to move to the nursing department, but also she had to meet the minimum requirement. And sometimes there's a test that you have to take to see if you are fit enough to move from this faculty to the other faculty. So it also depends with institution, but it is possible.
Thank you so much. Any more questions before we move to the other high school? All right, let's move to Sokisi. Sokisi High School. Any questions from that side?
No, ma'am.
Thank you. And we have Mahale. I don't know if I'm pronouncing this right, but is there any question from that side?
Yeah, it's Mhlanga. They don't have any questions this side.
Thank you so much. Our online audience, any questions from you? If there are no any more questions, I just want to say thank you so much, Brian. Thank you so much for your time. We understand you're a very, very busy person, but you still made time and come in to talk to our students, and you have said the very important things that they need to know, the 3 things. And I'm keeping them safe for my children. And maybe at some point I will also need to tell someone. Thank you so much.
There's one student here who wants to say some words of thanks.
All right.
Yeah, go for it.
I wanted to say thank you.
Mboni, unfortunately, we can't hear from this side.
Can you hear us now?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, so I wanted to say thank you for the meaningful lessons and tips that you gave us today about university life and everything else. So it was a great lesson, and all the tips that you have shared with us were very meaningful to us. And I really hope and think that most of us will use the tips meaningfully and also listen and apply what you have taught us. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. So as we finish this series, I would like to call up Dr. O. Dr. O, is from the University of TUT, and he's the best of the best lecturer that I've ever met, that I've ever worked with. And Dr. O is more than just a lecturer to her students. She's a mother. So I'd like her to say just a little thanks to our students as we end the series, and just to encourage them in 5 minutes. Dr. O?
Okay, I am now unmuted. Well, I am so inspired. The two guest speakers, I am so impressed. You spoke so well, Saletu and Brian. If I had you guys as mentors, I will be hopefully further than where I am now. It's a huge pathway, but I want to tell the students that are listening today, you guys have got the world in your hands, and you've got 10 fingers, 2 hands, but you've also got a voice and you've got eyes. So I'm going to teach you today quickly to bake a cake. All right. So if you look at this cake, if you don't put sugar in, it's not going to taste good. If you don't put rising agents like self-raising flour and all those things that make a cake grow and get fluffy, you're not going to get anywhere. So today, there's 3 C's that I want you to always remember: concern, caring, and commitment. You have got to be committed in your life to do anything. All right? You have got to know, where do I want to go? And you must realize it takes hard work. Now, I've taken some words. Some of these ingredients for this cake, you need commitment, perseverance, ownership. You have to stay focused. You've got to set your goals. You've got to be curiosity. You've got to have that, be curious. Then knowledge. And then, of course, you've got to be receptive to change. Don't think you know it all. You won't. But slowly by there, you will get there, one step at a time. And you've got to be ready to face challenges. Yes, you may fail some tests, but are you going to say it got the better of me? Or are you going to say, I can do better? I can do it. And I think Brian mentioned that, and a few other people that I've been listening to. Just believe in yourself. And if you put your cake in an oven that's got the right temperature, it's got to be right. If you put it on too hot and you want it to cook too quickly, like some of us want to rush our studies, you're going to see failure. Like your cake is going to burn. All right, so you put the temperature at the right temperature. You go step by step through your studies. Like you start stirring the ingredients, you start adding the right ingredients, and then you'll see your cake will rise if the temperature is right, if your speed is right. So never rush it, but don't leave everything to the last minute, because else you're going to end up with a pancake. So you have got to study very hard from day one. Don't leave everything to the last minute. And remember your 10 fingers and your 2 hands. And of course, we mustn't forget about these things. You've got to listen to understand. And you've got to understand before you speak. And you also got to remember that you got to, as what Brian said, stay focused. Set your goals. All right? Enjoy your journey. I think it wasn't Brian, it was Soletu. All right? And enjoy your studying. Enjoy your student life. But stay away from peer pressure. They can lead you on the wrong pathway. All right. Suddenly you're away from home, you've got freedom, and all of a sudden you say, oh, now we can go party. But the problem is party leads to party. All right. And you forget to study, and that's where failure comes in. So you can only go and party safely. Now, when you're a student, you don't see that. All right. Only if your work is up to date and you set your goals every single day. All right, I work with students every single day, and I've seen it's like a road like this. But there's some students that just start climbing and they start climbing, and some of my students have already got PhDs because they've set their goals. So, guys, bake that cake. Bake it at the right temperature, use the right ingredients, And a cake has to taste good. And you got to make a cake with love. If you don't love what you are studying, you're never going to achieve it. It's got to be something that you want in life, something that you want to achieve. Grab it with your 10 fingers and both your hands and take it and work towards what you want. And remember, you got to use your head. That is knowledge. You're going to gain so much knowledge on this pathway, but you're also going to have to use your hands. Okay? So it's head, hands, and then, of course, heart. If you don't have those 3 H's in your career, you're never going to achieve anything. But thank you, Sela. Thanks to the
Thank you
guest
so much.
speakers. You guys are amazing. I am so motivated. I was actually thinking I was a little bit tired today, but just listening to these 2 amazing talks have now inspired me to go home and continue working. Guys, you can do it. And I want to hear you guys say, I can do it. Because if you keep saying, I hate the letter T in the alphabet, T means can't, won't. Those 2 T's on those words is I can and I will. And won't, won. That means you've come and you won the race. You don't have to be a front runner. You don't have to keep running at the fastest speed. You just keep going and you will find that you are going to achieve your results. But if you carry on partying and you don't listen to understand and understand before speaking, there's no such thing as a stupid question. You ask those questions. You ask those questions. And remember, a short pencil is better than a long memory. So keep taking your notes and study every night. Guys, you want to pass matric? It's a hard road and it's a bumpy road. You're going to get days like this that you say, I can't. That T, that letter T, can't do it. But you must say to yourself, you get up in the morning, you smile at yourself in that mirror and you say, I can do it. I will pass. I will win. All right, guys. Thank you. I am now going to carry on marking my tests. And hopefully I will see some of you at TUT because I am a nature conservator and I train students about the good environment is the way to go. Okay. Thanks, guys.
Thank you so much, Dr. O, for the recipe. It's really important for them to have it. Yeah, and I think this is a very good way that we are ending this series. Thank you so much. Thank you to our speakers. Thank you to our students and to our online audience. Have a lovely evening. Bye.